Hello and welcome to a bit of a one-off, possibly I'll do them again, AMA with just me. So a live stream for an hour. We will be looking at your questions. I'll have a few things I want to share as well, which will be fun and exciting. And I've checked this kind of thing, and the lag is wild with LinkedIn. So we're live on YouTube as well, but the lag is wild here. I think I'm 25 seconds behind, judging by the countdown. So hello, those of you joining in. I know that there's probably, I think there's a load of you already watching, but it's nice to be here. Thank you very much for joining me. So a few things we'll be doing. Firstly, hi to everyone on YouTube. On the new Art of Sell channel. Hi everyone, of course, on LinkedIn as well. Lovely to have you here. Each week I'm doing a live stream with Art of Sell, so it's called the Art of Sell live stream. And last week was wonderful with Jodie Cook. Next week we plan to have Richard van der Blom, so he and I will be running a session together. But this week will be your questions answered for an hour. So if you have a question for me to prime you, because it takes forever for it to come through into the comments, if you have a question for me, go ahead and put it into the comments and I'll be able to see them as they come through, and then I can start answering them as we go. In terms of these lives, it's weird doing this again. For those of you who don't know, at the back end of 2015 into 2016, I started live streaming. That was on Facebook, and it caught light. And basically every Monday at 1 p.m. UK time, I did a startup business Q&A, which is basically a sales Q&A. And I ran those every single week for an hour for 5 years. So we did 260 episodes. It ended up going onto Instagram, onto YouTube. And when I finally got it a couple of years later, we added it to LinkedIn as well. And there was someone worked out the maths, and we basically did about 2,000 questions. So it's a heck of a lot of practice we had there, and I really enjoyed that experience. So it's been a while. It's been a few years since we did that last, since we did that. And so it's so nice to be back doing one of these. And hey, if you find this of value, then you need to let me know, and I will do my best to come and do some more for you. So I'm going to make sure I can add your comments if you have any. So if you have a question, write it in chat now, and I'll be able to add it if it's any good. And I will be also talking about a couple of other things, but let's start with one of them. This thing up here, this QR code at the top left of the page. I feel like a lot of people are nervous, concerned, stuck, misguided in terms of how to sell, especially on LinkedIn, but to sell in general in 2026. And they are nervous about that. And so as a gift to you all, this QR code here is a trial for a month for free in my Art of Sell community. I'm leading with this. I'm not saving it till the end, because I believe in just being a good guy and sharing the thing you probably want to. So if you scan that, it will take you to a page where you can join Art of Sell, and you can have full, unfettered access to the whole thing for a month. To give you a sense of the kind of speakers we've got, yesterday we had Coca-Cola, the national sales director working with Coca-Cola, who looks after their Wendy's brand. Coming up soon, we have Ed Essie, who is Senior Director of Business Innovation with Microsoft Garage. Imagine an incubator for Microsoft projects. That is a real gift to have him. We've just confirmed Sylvia Dana as well, who is, as of the end of last week, she's just moved on from it, but she's after 13 years at Nike. She ended up as the EMEA Director for e-commerce for the Jordan brand. This little basketball player you may have heard of called Michael Jordan. It's a big brand with Nike, and she oversaw all of that online work and has a great sales past. We have Jenny Fernandez soon as well, NYU Stern, Fast Company, HBR, amazing brands there. So the idea is that every week there's masterclasses from people like this, sharing with you everything from pitching, negotiation, closing, all the way to things like linguistics or body language or mindset and so on. So as a let's get you fixed for the year ahead, there's that QR code, and that's you having a month for free in the group. So I hope to see you there. Moving forward, before we get into questions, what I want to do to prime you lot as well is also address the change in things on LinkedIn. It's the playground I mostly spend time in. I've done the LinkedIn content thing for 7 years now. And I want to share, because I think there's a lot of confusion and there's certainly a lot of difficulty in understanding a plan of attack. I want to share 3 tips for all of you for LinkedIn content that I feel are right for 2026. It bears in mind testing and what I know works. It bears in mind what I've heard from those who are worth listening to. It also bears in mind my discussions with LinkedIn. I'm seeing them again next week. I was interviewing them recently, and I am very close with the content team. And it's bear in mind as well bias psychology. So let me share these 3. So if you're taking notes, then do so on these points. And again, though, if you have a question for me, I will get into that right after this here in the chat. Okay, so if you put in the question there, in the 30-second lag, it will finally come through and I'll be able to answer it. And I see a few of you asking questions already, so thank you. So, point number 1, and by the way, this is my opinion on content and a tip for you, but this is point number 1. LinkedIn is really trying to align what you do, so what's said in your profile, and what you talk about, so what's said in content, with who it should send it to, so the audience that it goes to. So I think it's really important that we all recognize, and I think most are starting to get there, but we all should recognize the days of volume, those days of volume, and pray a bit that some of the volume goes to the right people, and I'm talking about impressions and reach. They're kind of over. The days of volume are there, of course, if you're an influencer and you have mega reach, but that's a different kettle of fish. For the average business owner or someone using content, what's really important to understand is crystal clear alignment is king. So what that looks like is it's very clear what you do, outcomes, and for whom, ICP, on your profile, so that LinkedIn can link that or read that with your content, which also beats that singular drum, and send it to the right people. Really, in the last 3 months or so, I have seen, whilst the reach has dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped, I've seen a wonderful increase in this concentration of the right people stepping forward for me. And I believe that's because I'm strongly aligned. I'm always beating the same drum, talking about the same things. I don't go off piste and randomly jump about the place. So that's my first piece of advice. I really feel that is important. Really lean into that singular thing you do, but make it clear through profile. Second point, and I've talked about this for a few months now, is the way in which you will combat AI and stand out. And it's insights rather than value. Value is dead in posts. Value is dead because value is easy to create by AI. If I asked AI to produce a post of 10 great tips for selling, done, value. Now that was great in the past because of course AI didn't produce posts, so it was written by a human. Now it's just ubiquitous. So what we need to do is stand out. Insights, instead of just value, insights are lived experiences that you've had. So I did one of these earlier this week, I think it was yesterday in fact, or if not the day before, where it was, here's how I closed a deal with Sony. Or it's, here's how I did a thing. And when you share those experiences, firstly, all the people out there who love storytelling, and big that up, of course, that part's being placed there too. But importantly, we're making it feel real because we're using specificity in the form of actual experience. And that lived experience matters in a world where the baseline is just value that AI can do for you. So it's really, really crucial. Okay, really crucial. So insights rather than value. I'm calling it value 2.0. So we've got clear signal because that's how the algorithm's going to work now. Stop moaning about reach. It doesn't matter. What matters is the right people see you in the right way. So that's crucial, clear signal. Then when they see you, insight, show that you've done the thing, or that you have the experience, or you know what you're talking about. Final point before I get into your questions, and I have 2 submitted already, but I'll then jump to the chat and I see a few coming through, so thank you. Third point is top of funnel matters now so much more. In the past, and again, I'm an authority on this, I've done it 7 years. When I started, I swear there were like 50 of us doing content. Now there's loads of them. But what's interesting, in 2018, you could not miss. I remember when documents came out as well, I would put a carousel, I'd put that out, you might get 100,000 views in a day. I remember I was tiny then as well. Okay, you couldn't miss. Now it's different. And the reason why it's different is because you're not going to get quite the reach. So who are we putting in the way of our content? Conscious of every day is 1, who am I adding daily? Sure, it's nice to receive comment requests. You need to be fussy there. But who are you connecting with as well? Curate the connections that you're adding. But when you also add them, the second part is that we make sure we are interacting with them too. DM, so a connection note, to show them or to share why you find them intriguing and interesting. You don't need to spam them, you just need to tell them, I find you interesting because of this, something you have in common or something you find is interesting. Simple as that. If you can't find something, so find someone else. What, is there a billion users? So there's plenty of people you can find. If you add even a few people a day, you're curating that very top of funnel. Now, by virtue of your interaction on the DMs, what happens is they now are going to have your content land in their newsfeed. But it doesn't earn you the right to get engagement. It just happens to mean it'll be in the newsfeed. If it's in the newsfeed for them, the only reason they will actually engage or read the thing, click on your profile, lurk around, then leave, is a fondness for you. So top of funnel matters way more now, is adding the right people, but do they actually care when they see you? Just because you've got the connections or the followers doesn't mean they care. The people watching right now, I see you, thank you very much for joining us live. And for those of you watching, however many of you watch this recording as well, the reason why you're doing that is there's something about the title possibly, or me perhaps, but probably more likely, that you're like, oh, I like him enough, I'll watch this. But if you haven't created a level of fondness for this person, you haven't got on with them, or there's not been something compelling enough, you earn, and it's real talk, you earn nothing. You get nothing. It may even go to their feed, but they just don't care. So it's not good enough having the followers, it's what you're doing with these people. And as always, the interactions with the individuals are what makes the difference. So there's 3 things. I really think these are 3 essential foundations for 2026. That was what's really been helping me a lot too. Let's get into your questions. Please keep them punchy. I'm going to try and be moderating myself through these today. I will also be working through a couple that have been submitted. Those of you just joined, this QR code here is a gift to you all. I feel like I want to help people moving into the new year. That QR code is the Art of Sell full membership for free for a month. So we just had Coca-Cola yesterday. We've got Nike coming up. We've got Microsoft coming up in a week's time as well. I do workshops and masterclasses. You also have access to the on-demand over 100 masterclasses and workshops now. Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, IBM, Louis Vuitton, Dior, Nir Ayal, Christo, Maya Raichora, Lara Acosta, the lot. They've all been here doing these sessions, and you can access that too for free for a month. Join in, okay? So let's get into questions. First up, he submitted this earlier. I think you'll probably be watching the recording, so thank you so much for submitting this. Dmitry Pavlotsky has said, where do sellers overcomplicate sales even when they think they're doing good? Where do sellers overcomplicate sales when they think they're doing good? In my opinion, it's always been the same thing. And for those who don't know, I've been in selling for 23 years as of this year, and or 24 in fact, and it's been the same thing always. You find that you're trying to share a lot to give them all the information. But the problem with sharing too much is we overcomplicate. And when we overcomplicate, we end up explaining too much about what we're offering. We end up with it feeling like a bit of a mess. It makes perfect sense to you, but to the buyer who's hearing it for the first time, it's a major issue because now it feels like a mess. So let's look at the remedy. Instead of over-explanation, it's simple. The word is structure. You structure your calls. I'll explain how in a sec, but you also you structure how you deliver the proposition as well. So on the calls should always be 3 simple things. Learn about you, diagnose the problem, prescribe a solution. That's it. That's what you say you'll do. That's what you then go and do. And it keeps things nice and easy. The second part is you structure the proposition. So when you get to prescribing the solution, you don't say, so here's how the whole thing works, and here's how this option works, and here's how that option works, because they don't care how it works. They just need to know what they're going to get and the outcome it leads to. So what you do is you say it's very simple. There are 3 main parts. It's always this rule of 3. You do the 3 main parts to how it works. And then you tell them. Now, you may be thinking right now, but I have a very complex offering. It has many parts, Richard, because I'm so special and have so much value for my customers. Sure, but if you were told to categorize it all into 3 main things, just do it that way. Because again, they don't care that much how you're doing it. They just want to know that the magic is there and the transformation is possible. So you give them 3 broad areas in which you're going to help them, and that makes more sense. Because the simple truth is this: if you make it feel simple, they will treat it like it's simple. If you make it feel complex, they will treat it like it's complex. If you're talking too much about all of the little parts because you're so thrilled with your product, what happens is that they say to themselves in here, wow, this seems like a lot. And then you get, of course, can you put all this in an email, please? About it. Because all they're thinking is this is just like, I can't work this all out now. It should be simple enough for most of you, with most of your offerings, that in principle you're getting a yes on the first call. And that's often down to structure. So there's my answer, Dimitri. Thank you very much for that. You did ask a second question, which I will answer as well. What's more crucial in sales? Intent, honesty, or structure? The answer is yes, and I refuse to put one in and say one is more than the others. They're all important. Let's go through why quickly. It's crucial in sales that you have intent, because when you're selling, you have to, you may think you need an intention to sell. Sure, back of your mind. You need to have an intention to help and to find clarity to show them what to do. Because when you do that, you help them to arrive at the point where they are clear with you what they need, and then you can give them the solution they need. It's also crucial, to be honest, I don't need to explain why, because you should. You should never need to lie. If you feel you need to lie, it's because you're not doing it right, okay? And of course, it's crucial to have structure, because without any of these things, even if you have the other 2, Dimitri, you'll really, really struggle, because they all require each other. So, not a bad question, but I will give you a different answer. Kobe Omanaka, you've asked me quite a long question, but let's whiz through this, then I'm going to get into you lot in chat. So if you have a question, make it punchy, put it in chat, and I'll try and get through you as well. Also, let us know where you're watching from so I can see. It's always nice to know, because I know there's a bunch of you watching live. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So Kobe has asked, he said, I've managed to land a big ticket customer for one of my clients just by chatting in the DMs, even without thinking about it. A huge case of that with or without you energy. Well done, Kobe, for doing that. This shows I need to mine the gold in the DMs for a smaller ticket clients. Okay, I have a 400 quid a month offer where I place people on podcasts as guests and they get 4 a month. How should I start this outreach in the DMs to find the people who would be interested? This is the same every time. So what he's basically saying is, how do I find out in the DMs if I've got the right kind of people? This is a pre-qualification question. What we want to do is map back from why they would want to be on these podcasts in the first place. Okay? We don't want to sell anyone if there's not the right context. So this is a simple case of qualification. Before you even get into the DMs, what we need to say to ourselves in your case is, if the end result is that I help people get on podcasts, well, I don't want to have to sell people major concepts. Let me give an example. If I want to sell people on a LinkedIn service, I want to go to people who are sold on using LinkedIn in the first place, right? Because it's a lot harder if I go over to Facebook and sell them on a LinkedIn service when they're sold on Facebook but not using LinkedIn. So there's pre-qualification you can do before you even get in there. So in your case, Kobe, what I'm looking for is, do they have a fairly healthy personal brand? Because what does that mean? It means they're investing in how they appear, which relates to being on podcasts. Do they have an active audience? Because they need to clearly be demonstrating that they are investing time and effort and resource in having more of an audience around them. Do they have a proof, this is a big one, of being on podcasts already? Can you find them anywhere on podcasts? That's easy. Use AI. Tell me all the podcasts this person's been on. If they've been on a few podcasts, it means it's important enough to them to do it. And they're sold on the idea. And they've been on some podcasts. And what's crucial is, you recognize what you're actually selling. Because if you can find people in that category, okay, they're trying clearly, they're already on some podcasts, what you're actually selling them is not just being on podcasts. You're selling them, firstly, a structured approach. Now you're going to get them on a podcast each week. So now they don't have to worry about when the next podcast coming from. They're already sold on podcasts being helpful, but they're going to come to them when they come to them. But the second part is you're selling them their time back. Now it's you essentially working as an agent. So that's what I'm looking for. I would be looking to ask questions along the lines of, hey, I really like the content you're sharing. I wanted to look for more. Are you on any podcasts? And they'll say, yeah, I'm on one or two. Here they are. And now we know that this person is potentially ripe to speak further about this with. So that's what I'm looking for. And it's the same for all of you here. You know, what's the outcome and what things would need to be true for you to then have that kind of person who could really see value in that outcome right away, as opposed to try and sell them on the whole concept. Let's move into your questions on the stream. There's a lot of comments. Thank you very much for sending this. Let's see if I can start this at the beginning. This should be fun. So I'm going to pick one of them because you've submitted loads here, Edwin. So Edwin has said, what micro commitment sequence would you use to move a manager from LinkedIn, as in the platform I assume, to a signed enterprise POC over 3 months? High trust, no pressure. What micro commitment sequence? Wouldn't it be lovely if there was just a sequence you could rinse and repeat on everyone? The key is that if we're going to move a manager from LinkedIn to a site, it may take 3 months, it may take longer, to be honest. But what we want to consider is high trust with no pressure. No pressure is easy. No pressure is easy. But high trust typically comes from familiarity. So from a large number of touch points. There's a saying which is, you need 7 to 10 touch points to get someone to want to buy from you. I feel it's wildly higher now. Wildly higher, because there's so many options online. So it may be more like 20. So a micro commitment sequence can be dangerous because what we're trying to do is loop them in so fast. But still, let's look at what we could do. I would be looking for, and I assume this is with the DMs you're looking at, I'd be looking at a DM firstly with a leverage. And that leverage, Edwin, would need to be some kind of commonality. It can't be, we have mutual connections on LinkedIn, or we both appear to breathe air, or even we went to the same university. I think you need something tighter than that. What I've found with this kind of approach is it's always best if you can look at who you already worked with, customers or other people you've interacted with, and ask yourself, who are those adjacent managers that you could pitch as well? Essentially what I'm saying is, if you have a friend, client, colleague, someone you've done a partnership with or joint venture with, who you are connected to, that they in turn are connected to, that's where your high trust will come from. This is how I close so many deals in my corporate days, because my entry point would be, I wouldn't say, hey, you don't know me, but I would say, hi, I'm Richard Moore. There's this guy I work with, and we've done this with them. And I mentioned this on my post earlier this week. The one about how I closed Sony was I approached Sony as a complete nobody, and I got high trust instantly by saying, we're working with Samsung. This was for flight information display screens, you know, the ones you get at airports. We work with Samsung. Here's what we've done with them. It just felt like it might make sense to speak to you about how we can help too. And people get pitched all the time, but they don't pick, and they even get pitched with some leverage. But leverage like that is different. You have to pay attention when if it's like, we've worked with your competitor, or we've worked with someone you know well. You know, so what I was doing, Edwin, is I would solve this problem in this question you've got. I would solve it by looking way upstream to the start of my process. Who is my next lead I'm going to be pitching? And that lead would be someone who has some relation in some way to someone I've already worked with. So what I would do is I'd say, who's the last customer that liked me and got on well with me? And I would say, right, I'd look at things like press releases. What, you know, are there any joint partnerships or any kind of contracts that they worked on? Did they work on even a larger project that someone else did? And then I can pitch that someone else. Okay, so then the micro commitment sequence is as simple as, hi, I've worked with this company on, you could even drop the name, on this particular project. I know you did too. Would love to connect. Yes, would love to. What did you do with them? They're likely to say. We worked on this thing. You know, you mention it very briefly, not too much, but then with an outcome. It just felt right to see whether or not you could make use of this as well. Yes, please, they'll say. I did this, I remember, with Standard & Poor's, S&P, and it was a division of it called Cap IQ, and I did work with them, and their direct competitor at the time, so like 15 years ago, was IHS Markit. So I approached Lance Ugler, the CEO, on LinkedIn. I sent a DM, and I literally used that approach. And he's like, well, we'd like to hear what you did with them. And yeah, absolutely, we might be able to help. And nobody like me sent the DM, and they were keen to answer. And it's because I used that leverage. If you can't find it, go find someone else, in my opinion. That's the way I would do it. So really good question. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let me get rid of that one. So let's see another question. Edwin, I am going to overlook you a bit because I think you have written quite a few. So thank you. LinkedIn user. What an amazing name. It could be anyone. What do you believe is the most overlooked psychological barrier that keeps people from selling effectively, even when they know what to say and how to say it? Interesting. So they know what to say, they're well practiced, and how to say it. The most overlooked psychological barrier, well, it usually is their view of themselves. It really is. Another one, I think that is a fair point, but another one, as I'm thinking about it, is often this feeling that the seller has that they're in some way intruding. And that is a representation of, or a display of how they view their offering in not positive enough a way. So what I mean by this is this concern that if they interact with who might buy their service, they would be disturbing them because they're so busy. And that's putting this buyer on a pedestal. But the problem is it's completely overlooking a really important truth. That if your service is any good, and I want you to all really hear this, if your service is any good, as in think about where it could genuinely make a difference in people's lives, how transformative it could be, then aren't you the solution? Aren't you the one they should be thrilled to speak with? They might have a problem right now which is genuinely stressing them out. And for you to show up knight in shining armor and share this thing that leads to this amazing outcome for them, well, what a gift that is. And I think people overlook that, and they're like, oh, they project that there's this busy, high up person that they're giving far too much respect to, and they're gonna intrude on them, and they'll get, and basically it represents this fear of rejection, which is a social thing we're hardwired to. But if you can reframe it as, there's probably someone out there right now, and I mean this, all of you listening, there's someone literally out there right now who may even be borderline losing sleep, or at least having a level of anxiety or frustration even about not being able to crack some kind of code that you just can do in your sleep. You know what to do. So to view it that way is a really important psychological barrier to overcome, because now it's like, sure, I know what to say, and yes, I know how to say it, but I'm also approaching with the right kind of intent as well. The intent to help and serve, rather than this worry of intrusion, because you're never intruding if you can help someone. And as long as they hear you in the right way, and you said here, you know how to say it, as long as they hear you in the right way, they'll get it and they will be keen to hear more. So I think that's one of the big ones. It's just for the volume of people I've seen selling that really, really, really worries them. I just want to pause here. We're halfway. I want to say thank you so much for everyone for watching so far. We're here for an hour. Last week was Jodie Cook. That was great fun. Next week should be, well, it should be because we've confirmed it, but is Richard van der Blom. We're going to be going live together. Up here you've got a QR code. That is 1 month for free in the art of sell. Okay, you know, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Google, JD, what's it called? Not JD, JP Morgan, London Stock Exchange, Louis Vuitton, so many brands with wonderful people have come and shared their tips on the art of sell, so bringing elegance and comfort to how you sell, as well as myself for what that's worth as well in the workshops and masterclasses. A month for free. Go on to the QR code and you can join us there. Let's get into some more questions. We've done that one, Okay, so, wow, I made it to the live. So happy. Well, let's answer that one then. Good way to start. I've got another LinkedIn user here, but never mind. Do you think ethical selling is mostly about intention or about structure? Which goes better, a natural one or well-prepared, thought over and pre-researched? I don't see why the two can't coexist. If I think about how I sell, I'm always prepared and I'm always structured. And I think we can conflate in error a structured call with one that's you not coming through authentically. I disagree with that notion. I feel that ethically ethical selling is when you're not lying or being disingenuous about yourself, your offering, or indeed its outcome as well. But I think what's really important is with well-prepared, structured calls, that means you don't have to do nearly as much thinking about where I go next, and you can focus even more on how you show up and that intention and being as authentic as possible. The problem comes when you're not structured and you're all over the place and you're not giving the best of you. That's why structure and preparedness really matters, because it gives you confidence so you can show up as the best version of you in that moment, which is what they need, because they need you to be switched on and able to answer questions well and deliver it, saliently without wondering what you're going to talk about next. So I can't see why the two can't coexist is my response to that, but thank you very much for the question. Let's have a look a bit more. Some really good messages here. Pedro, hook is king. Step one, getting them to click on read more. It is, and I think that's reference to the point I made earlier. It is, but I would argue it's not step one. It is for the content, but prior to that, to get them to click read more, the hook matters, but it's not step one, because before that, it's do you inhabit space in their mind which makes them feel oh, and I'm saying that clearly, like that makes them feel when they see your post, oh, it's Richard Moore, I'll stop and read that. Because there's enough hooky hooks out there, but we don't read them all, do we? And plenty of hooks are crap, and we do read them because it's someone we're fond of. Far more powerful than a hook is a fondness for you. I'm using that word fond carefully. Like essentially, they see you as someone they look up to, they respect, or they found value in. And value might be emotional, you're maybe witty or fun to be around, or it could be practical value in the sense that, you know, you've given them some tips or ideas in the past. When it's like there's this urge internally to want to spend time consuming your content, the hook doesn't matter at all. And I proved this point. I proved this point a number of times with posts. So I did this, I think the first time I did it was a couple of years ago. I deliberately did a post with a bad hook. Deliberately. And the photo was like, it was a picture of my chin. And so the hook was rubbish, and then the second line was also rubbish. And I was deliberately making the point that, and I wrote in it, this post will still get thousands of views, this post will still get a few hundred people liking it, and there it was. I also did it more recently, Pedro, when I challenged myself in my accelerator group in front of all of the members, and I told them, don't interact in my post. I challenged myself to, and I did it live. I went to LinkedIn, I went to new post, I pressed the number 5 on my keyboard because I just pressed that number, and I pressed post. So I literally posted the number 5, thousands of views, couple of hundred likes, people writing, oh, I wonder what experiment he's doing, and things like that. People like, oh, it's Richard, like. But so the point I was making is yes, it's hooks to a degree, but they aren't the be-all end-all that the hypey marketers selling you their courses will tell you it is. So there's more to it than that. An audience's fondness for you is worth so much. Now look, I can't write the number 5 every time I post, but the point is I knew that that would make a point. And so what they think of you really matters. I think I'll just leave on a final point on this. Famously on Twitter once, someone wrote something about investing, and Ray Dalio, one of the most prolific investors in history, wrote a comment. And someone who didn't know who Ray Dalio was saw the photo, because the guy's in his 70s or whatever, saw the photo of his headshot and wrote, "Who's this boomer? You have no idea what you're talking about." And it just goes to show, if you don't know who the person is, you don't care that much. But if they have halo effect, then you'll love everything they have to say. And you can see this with those that are influencers here on LinkedIn. But it's a really interesting talking point there. Thank you very much, Pedro. I really respect your point. And look, let's be clear, hooks matter. But I think it's never as simple as just that, and I'm sure you'll agree. Seren Getrup, not a LinkedIn user. Good, we have an actual name here. Sorry, my fault. It's Suren Gotrop. Nice to see your question. What's your take on sorting through the connections so you only have the ones that are possible clients? It's a mistake. The reason why is because we are no longer individuals, Soren. We're no longer individuals. We are the networks we have as well. The thing to remember is possible clients is a very blinkered view of your connections. There's 2 reasons why. Firstly, your connections should also include people who aren't possible clients, but are allies. There are so many connections who have made me a lot of money, but never bought anything, because they advocate for me. They speak of me. In a month's time, I'm in Slovakia speaking at an event, okay? Richard van der Blom very kindly recommended that I am the guy that should go and speak at this event to the founders of the event itself, the organizers. And that's because he's a connection, not necessarily a possible client. Although technically he could be, and he has bought a thing of mine, it doesn't change the fact that he's also an ally. So we need to have allies in there too. The second element here though, Soren, which is really crucial, is how can we say that someone isn't potentially a client as well? Because if I'm looking over here at people I might be able to coach, But then over here, I've got someone who might buy me for something else, which is totally doable. Why would I not want those as well? But we have to draw a line, which I think is important. We have to draw a line because if I have, a Peruvian pipe welder in my connections, it's probably going to be kind of hard for that person to be either an ally or even a possible client. So I do need to bear that in mind. So I am fairly fussy. Demographic, asking myself, what's probably in their network? Is it people who might buy? Are they at the right kind of level? Maybe age, possibly, region and so on. But I need to recognize that I'm looking for allies as well, not just potential buyers. Because if I can keep the allies close, they're the ones that are going to support me on my posts. They're the ones that are going to show up and interact. And by doing that, it does have an algorithmic nudge on my content, and that will unlock the doors to the people who might buy. So I need to bear both of those in mind. Really good question. Thank you for that. LinkedIn user asked when. Yes, looks like next Friday we'll be doing that, probably same time. Good question. Thank you very much. Elon Musk as well, someone said. Good. Hey, Richard. Hey, Maniba. Thank you very much for joining us. Good morning, everyone, says LinkedIn user. Let's do another question. So, LinkedIn user, this is a question that comes up a lot. How much time, I'm being flippant, how much time do you spend on LinkedIn a day? And do you use AI for your spots? I think you mean for your posts on here. How much time on LinkedIn do I spend? Let's break this down. I probably spend an hour and a half cumulatively on LinkedIn. I probably spend 20 minutes of that or so on commenting. I do not comment grind. I know some people love that, but come on, you must have other things to do. I write the post 15, 20 minutes or so. I will babysit the post a bit as well, and I'm fairly rapid with the commenting. But the rest of my time is those moments of right, connection request. No, yes, you're allowed in. No, yes, you're allowed in. And I'll add myself maybe 5 new ones that I will manually add each day. Then everything else is DMs. And I might do more than that hour and a half, but DMs is where the magic is. It's always been where the magic is. It always will be where the magic is. And that's not just on this platform, it's elsewhere as well. I think it was actually Alex Hormozy recently who said on YouTube in an interview, he's like, the majority, no, it was someone who met him, was talking about, he said, the majority of his business comes from DMs, not from the content. Content nurtures and builds familiarity, and familiarity is a seed of trust. But it's the DMs where you get one-to-one with people. Unless you are courting wild volumes of people engaging your posts and you're selling them super high volume, so lots of them, but low ticket offerings, so think SaaS services and so on, at low subscription prices, unless you're doing that stuff, if you're doing higher ticket, high tier ticket prices, you're a coach or you're a consultant and so on, you are going to be doing super low volume, so low units, but higher ticket stuff. You need to be one-on-one interactions. When I first started in 2014 on Facebook, that's all I did. My first 100,000 quid was made by doing DMs. I didn't have a brand much at all. No one knew of me. It was on Facebook. I didn't even have a website. I was posting nonsense like Henry Ford quotes like everyone else was doing. No idea what I was doing there. But what I was doing was spending time in the DMs, because your job is always to be as close as possible to the money. Your job, primary objective of a business is always client acquisition. Always. Not how many impressions can your post get. It's always client acquisition. So you need to be as close as possible to the money, which means how do I get in front of the buyers? If I can be in front of a buyer in the DMs, instead of in front of the buyer on a piece of content, I will choose the DMs every day because I've got them on their own. And I can do so much more than just with content. Content will nurture and allows me to be in front of individuals at scale, but eventually I need to then for want of a better phrase, pick them off and interact with them one-on-one. Eventually a deal needs to be done, which means an interaction needs to happen. Unless it's automated, but that's a different thing. When it comes to higher ticket selling, when I'm meeting the person and closing it, it's got to be that one-on-one time in the DMs. Okay, so that's where I spend my time. And a tip, by the way, if you have not got a client, then you can spend much more time in the DMs on LinkedIn. Okay, if you've not got, or even if you have got clients, but you've got a slot on a Tuesday morning for 2 hours where you take on a new client, but you don't, so use that 2-hour slot to do business development. Do use AI for your posts on here. The way I use AI is to help me ideate on posts, so ideas, I still write them, to improve it maybe if I'm like being a bit lazy, I'm like, write a better hook or give me 5 versions, something like that. I don't have AI write the whole post for me, so I don't use any apps like that, or you know, these SaaS services that write your post for you. I have had previous posts that I repost, and I would use AI to like improve them or suggest improvement. But I've done it enough writing posts that I probably know, I kind of know what will land well. I will, full transparency, add that I've hired a ghostwriter. She's starting literally this month, and she will be taking my thoughts and ideas and putting them on paper for me. So some of my posts will then be written technically by a ghostwriter instead of me, but that's me simply not having enough time to sit and write posts. I can voice note, here's my notion, go write it, and then I'll tweak it at the end. I don't use AI for commenting. I don't use AI for DMs, because this is never about how many people can I DM, how many people can I comment on, because that's absurd focus on reach. And I'm not trying to be an influencer. The thing I'm trying to do is get customers. So I need AI the hell out of the way so I can speak to the right people myself. There's something very unique in 2026 about being present as a human. And when you're present where it matters, you don't have to be present in the comments. You don't. There's no medals handed out for answering every comment. You don't have to be present there at all. But what you do need to do is be present in the DMs or when there's an opportunity or a moment where you might interact with a buyer and get something from them then. So really good question. Thank you. Let me get rid of that one. Let's see what else we've got here. Wow, thank you so much for the answers. Another thank you for nailing the name. Priceless, there we are. Top left here of the screen, you've got a QR code. So if you would like to join me in the Art of Sell, it is free for you for a month. You can join us for the workshops coming up. I'm rather excited about those as well. So a free trial of that. You get access to my mini course there, the fundamentals of sales, all the other on-demand workshops and masterclass as well, and the community access as well. So complete unfettered access to the whole group, and that's on me. I really want to help people this year. Let's have a look. Another question, maybe one or two more before I finish. Ask away. I'll try my best to get through as many as I can. Let's be quick with them. Another LinkedIn user. I don't know why it does this. Hello, Richard. Which approach helped you successfully close a deal during your first interaction with a client? Which approach helped me successfully close a deal in my first interaction? I don't know fully what you're asking, but I'm going to read it as this. I think what you're asking is, when I closed a deal in the first instance, like in my first interaction, what was my approach to get me there? Well, that would have been cold pitching or cold calling. And there's a couple of things you need to remember if you're going to, because I did a decade of cold calling in the city. It was a number of different products, a number of different levels as well. Price points from like £1,000 up to 6 figures. And it was always cold outreach. Of course, you get some people asking, but typically it's cold outreach. And I learnt there the importance of value in the form of leverage at the start. It's a bit like the question I answered earlier on this. You have to have incredible value. And I want to be really clear on defining this. There's relevance, which is I technically have a service or a product that you technically could buy. That's relevance. Or I saw you have a need and I have a solution that solves that need. I see you have a hole in your shoe and I sell a service that fixes shoes. I see there's that need. But that's not leverage. That's just relevance. I'm relevant to the problem. And the issue with relevance only, which is where people fall down with their cold outreach or with their single move closes, or attempts at them at least, is that they're trying to use a pithy, weak reason why someone should buy from them, but it's not good enough. So instead of just relevance, we need leverage as well. And leverage is a compelling reason why they should really pay attention to you. Because there's so many people doing the same thing, so why you? And the answer is often in something that you've got in common with them. I mentioned this earlier, it was maybe that between this person and I, there's someone that I've worked with that they respect highly. So if I think about the latest deal that I did, that was one call and a sale, and they always are for a Say My Accelerator, that one was a referral, so that was not too hard. But if I look at the ones before, it's like, it's the same usual stuff. I'm structured, I listen to them, I show them I know what they're talking about, I make it clear I've got this and I know how to fix the problem. But I think what's really crucial is I'm using leverage not just to get my foot in the door, but also I'm using leverage to nurture them in the sales interaction itself. And that leverage will be in the form of me dropping in examples. If I know the circles they're in, so the kind of ecosystem they live in, I will drop in names of people that I've worked with as well, that I know that they would know too. And that display of my knowledge of the space combined with the people I'm connected to as well, and the examples, that's helped a lot. But ultimately what it comes down to is that they need to feel that between where they are and where you are, that gap can be bridged by you. They need to feel compelled that you've got this. Like I said, that's the thing you're actually selling them. So that approach doesn't really change. It's when you're closing someone on the first interaction, or when you're closing them when they've kind of been inbound and nurtured a bit, it's the same principles there. You need to remember you've got that leverage to make use of. I think that's your question, so hopefully that makes sense. Mohammed, thank you for your question. What to do when you have a good presence but they're not converting? I love this question. I love this question because you've used the word good. You've said it's good presence. How do you know it's good? Let's break this down. So a lot of people will say, and they know better than to do it with me, a lot of people will say, they will say, my post did really well. So whenever I see a post that brags about how many impressions it gets, I will think to myself, right, so where are the customers then? Where's the deals? So if someone says their post did really well, we need to define what they mean by really well. And usually, I know this because this is how people are. Usually what people think is, if my post got lots of views or lots of engagement, it did really well. Well, if you're paid on views and engagement, well then good. But really what we need to say to ourselves is, well, fine, it got a lot of eyeballs and it got some engagement, but did it yield some leads? Did it yield deals? Because if your company's primary goal is client acquisition and your marketing in the form of your posts, which its job is to create leads and deals, if your post didn't achieve that, well then your posts are not good at their job. But I got lots of impressions, but I got lots of engagement, doesn't mean the post is good. It means it's good at getting engagement and it's good at getting leads. It doesn't mean it's good at getting engagement and good at getting impressions, but it doesn't mean it's good at getting leads and deals. So let's look at the presence. And I think here you're talking about brand as well. When you have a good presence, let's say that presence means it looks good and you have a following and you have lots of impressions and engagement, but they're not converting. It will be one of two reasons, or both of them are yes. The two reasons are simple. Either the content is not landing right with the right people, crucially, not just landing right, but landing right with the right people, and / or you can't close. So sometimes we do get the right people and they do step forward, but then we choke when it comes to doing the sales call. And that's on our, that means that we, you know, and the way you test this is simple. Am I getting calls? You know, am I getting onboarding calls? Do people want to buy from, like, are they showing themselves as leads? Ideally, you should be able to, if you're doing higher ticket, you should be able to generate at least 1 call per day. If you're spending a bit of time in the DMs, doing it properly, 1 call in your calendar every day. If you're not closing any of them, you've got a closing problem, sales structure on the call problem, not necessarily the presence problem. If you're not getting any calls, so not converting to even onto calls, it means that your content is not working. And what's so important, this is kind of one of my big issues people have, is they think they're doing well, but they have a false positive. It's so important to understand if you have impressions and you have engagement, it doesn't mean the right people are paying attention to you. It's so crucial because it's just people, not the right people. And the point of your content is to be aligned. So all of this is a very long way of saying, Aras, a good presence should be getting you leads. If you're not getting leads, then you don't have a good presence. You have a presence. And you may think it's good, but lots of big numbers does not mean good. Lots of nice design does not mean good. Alignment is what means good, because alignment gets results that are measurable in the form of the right people stepping forward. So if that's not happening, that's the way you need to work. If you are getting them stepping forward, like I say, then and you're not converting them on the call, then it's good. It means the brand presence marketing part of the funnel is working. It's the last part, the actual selling bit, which you need to focus on developing instead. Really great question. Thank you so much for asking, and I know I ranted a bit. I think we will leave it there. There's so many of you asking questions, so thank you so much. And I appreciate you all coming along. This means so much. I know it's like dozens of you watching, which is lovely. I know I don't necessarily have huge engagement, but who cares? The main thing is you showed up, so thank you. Richard van der Blom should be with me next week. Join me here on Art of Sell in that QR code. I really appreciate you being here with me. And let me know if you feel you'd like me to do more of these. Like I said, I did this for 5 years, 260 episodes, 2,000 questions, because it was about 8-ish. I think it was something like 8 questions per session. If you'd like me to do more, let me know. But I really enjoy this, and it's really nice to do, because for me, I get a sense of otherwise I'm guessing, you know? So it's really helpful to hear, even if it's the same questions over and over again, it's really interesting to have a finger on the pulse of the things people are asking about. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you for spending your morning, afternoon, or evening with me. I really appreciate you. Enjoy Art of Sell on me for a month, and I'll hopefully see you on some of those calls